Assalamu alaikum. You know, one thing that our parents didn't have to worry about as much as we do? It's our kids being exposed to porn. And you know, even back then there was exposure. But one, it wasn't even as accessible as it is now. And two, the things that we saw was way more tame than it is now. And since our kids are on screens, we really have to be diligent and have a plan in place for what to do when they see any kind of pornography. So I'm just going to share with you what I did, and you can incorporate whatever you want into when you do your talk with your kids. So what I did was I read this book. It's called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and basically it talks about, it's a mom talking to her kids about what good pictures are and bad pictures. So I reenacted that. I also looked up some articles on how to talk to your kids about porn, as well as just some research on my own that I've been doing for a while. So when everybody was calm and we were just kind of having downtime, I sat down and I asked my kids if they know what good pictures and bad pictures are, and to give me some examples. So good pictures can be anything like their baby pictures, memories from trips, different celebrations, and I also asked them, do they know what bad pictures are? And that could be anything scary or weird. And sometimes we find good pictures and bad pictures on screens too. And I asked them, have you ever seen anything bad on screens? And you know, this is when they can make comments. Maybe they'll tell you something that they saw that was scary or bad. And so then I said, you know, another bad picture is you could see people naked doing weird things. That's a bad picture too. And at this point they might say, oh, gross. And then I would just validate them. I'm like, yeah, you know, when you go to the restroom, you don't want to go to the bathroom while the door is open. You always close the door because there's some things that are private and you don't want everybody to see, do you? And they're like, yeah, of course not. So I said, that's why there's a lot of weird people, and they actually show their whole body and they might be doing weird things. So when that happens, if that happens, then I want you to do three things. One is that close the device immediately. Two is I want you to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, loudly, and then come tell me your Baba right away. Because, you know, those things shouldn't be coming up on your screens. And I don't know if the filters that we have on are working. So when you come to us, we can check that for you. And I also want you to know that you're never ever going to get in trouble if you see something. Because you know what? We all see. Sometimes I even saw something. So it's totally okay. We just want to make sure that our devices are used for the right things. And, you know, we want it to be fun and safe for you. And so they usually agree. And then just so you know, like, this is not a talk that we have just one time. So randomly, I could be in the kitchen and like maybe after like 4 or 5 weeks, I would kind of bring it up again, and I could say, hey, you guys, what is our what is our rule for screen time if we see something bad, any bad pictures? And then they'll go over with me what we talked about. 1, closing the device. 2, saying A'udhu Billah. 3, coming and getting myself or Baba. So that's something that I randomly just kind of do just so they can remember and be reminded of that. And for my kids who are older than 8, I actually told them the term. I told them this is pornography. That's what it is. And if you ever come upon that term, then don't click on it and come and tell us. And that did happen one time. So my son came and told me that. And I'm so glad that I had talked to him about that. Now, if you're wondering, when is the right time to tell our kids about this? One, I mean, there's a couple different reasons and when. So one is that if they have access to the device, or they know someone, or they're with someone who has access to any kind of Wi-Fi, right? And second is if they go to school, or whether it's private, public, co-ops, even Quran classes where other kids have smartphones, or where they're going to have smartphones. We want to make sure that, because it's just really a click away. We homeschool, and yeah, that makes it, you know, we might have a little bit of leeway, but really, it doesn't really matter because everybody has Wi-Fi, everybody has internet. So being exposed to porn is just one click away. And even though I limit screen time a lot, And I try to find a lot of alternatives to screens. And that's something that I'm really, really passionate about doing. So even I felt like I really need to have this talk. So having a plan in place is just so important. If your kids don't receive it really well, or they're just asking you more questions, then it's okay to answer those questions that's age appropriate. So if you don't know how to answer something, you could say, that's a really good question. I don't know. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And even a lot of parents, they share with me that they were exposed at a young age and they didn't tell their parents. And that's really common, actually. And we don't want our kids not to tell us. We want them to tell us. It's our obligation to protect them, and it's their right that they know what to do. And because this is something that is going to happen. As I mentioned in one of my stories, I think at least 80% of kids by the time they're 11, they're already exposed to pornography. And we don't want our kids to be in that statistics, which is really hard, but it's okay because it's out there. They're going to see it. They are going to see it. And it's better that we talk to them about it and what to do when you do see it. And I'm not saying if they will, most likely they will. That's just the environment that we live in now. And instead of us getting scared and just being very fearful of it, we need to learn about it, be educated, and know what to do. And I think that while we want our kids to maintain their innocence, and we want them to just play and just enjoy their childhood, we don't want them to be ignorant, and we don't want them to be an easy target for predators or anything online that's going to deter them from what they really intended to go on the internet for, which is just to have fun or interact with their friends. And so it's really, really important that we keep it safe for them by letting them know. And if we come across as, really rigid, very scared and fearful, they're going to be scared. And when that happens, they're not going to tell us. The whole point of telling them is that when it happens, they feel like we're a safe place for them. And they're not going to get in trouble. They're not going to be punished. That we can be their safe haven. So then when it happens, they can come to us. That is the most important thing here. And there's just so much more about this topic. But I just wanted to start talking about it and not make it a taboo. And this is something that our kids will thank us for, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.